Welcome, Chris. Welcome to the Beet Retreat. Excited to talk to you about all things data, advertising, CTV. Let's start with a big macro question. Lots of talk in our industry right now about the coming big signal loss, or I guess we're in the middle of this transition. How are we doing as an industry at a macro level?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. It's good to connect again. I'm glad you asked the question. So, it's a topic that we've known has been coming for a while. I'm not sure it's been as mainstream as the last few months. I think partially it's been over focused on the deprecation of the cookie.
Yeah.
Like the vehicle for
And it's a different set of issues for TV versus the open web and all
well,
that. Which we can work
exactly.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like we've just been talking about like signal is changing, but we've always focused on the cookie. The cookie's not relevant in TV. I think we're finally now, just as of like the last 2 weeks, it's gone mainstream. We're talking about IP address, which both in principle and in practice is like a fundamental piece of connectivity in this new age world where we have phones, computers, tablets, TVs, and refrigerators and everything else that will eventually have content and advertising on it. So I think the challenge and the opportunity is like from an education standpoint, the average marketer is well behind thinking about like what signal truly means from an all-encompassing standpoint. Depending on where you sit in the value chain of the ad tech ecosystem, you've been able to kind of see the train coming and preparing for it, or potentially ignoring it altogether. So we're at a unique crossroad, in my opinion, of how impactful it will be to the things that we've just recently become accustomed to from a targeting, measurement, analytics standpoint, and how impactful it will be.
Right, because I think it's an odd moment because there's the dream that the TV will be just like digital. We'll be able to connect everything, every device, online, offline, is running up against this push for privacy. How are those two things colliding or not?
Yeah, well, I think it's you're spot on. So like, if you build it, they will come. That was a line in the movie. I'm pretty sure we've actually built it, right? And the eyeballs have finally caught up to that premise of connected TV, streaming, et cetera, et cetera. We're now going to throw a wrinkle like at that. We're going to throw a curveball to use the old Field of Dreams. Keep on.
I thought you didn't actually know it was Field of
No,
Dreams.
I did. It just took me a second to
okay.
catch up where my mind was going. But jokes aside, I think we're throwing a curveball at it now that we may potentially impact the number one point of connectivity, which again, IP address, how that's going to come into the equation for how devices will be recognized when there's not this like traditional identifier that's gone mainstream. I will say though, if you look at like the likes of some of the momentum you're seeing, absent of the privacy changes, right, from a consumer consent and opt-in standpoint, things like UID2 that the Trade Desk has been jockeying and standing behind for some time. From a universal standpoint, we're certainly starting to see more publisher adoption that absent of like the traditional data that you'd find as what I'd call like data exhaust. You're starting to see some behavioral changes from a connected TV and a TV landscape where that's becoming a truly adopted identifier that will help mitigate some of the risk. But when you think about connecting that to like the broader open internet, it will continue to play a role, but it's not proliferated at the extent where if like IP and cookie were to go away tomorrow, we'd be 100% ready. But that, in my opinion, from someone who's spent the last 10 years in identity, certainly one of the best mitigating risks to the ecosystem.
So do you think there's been debate about whether this future post-cookie, post-whatever, marketing will be more about macro cohorts and like lookalikes versus like we'll find some kind of replacement and be just as precise as we'd like to be?
Yeah.
Do we have to choose? Is there a trade-off there?
I think a couple of things. If I were to bet, I think the pendulum swung so far. I think led by Facebook, Meta, to like we want to target people. People will become an extract of the household. That's my personal opinion, that the household will become the new consumer, right? Just by the nature of the signal and how personalized that you'll be able to get. I think the household will become that new correlation to what a person looks like from a targeting standpoint. So that's one of my like personal theories and something I've been believing for some time now. Two, I think we'll continue to see different types of signal introduce themselves. So you've mentioned, cohorts. I think of like first-party data from marketers and or first-party data that's derived in the offline world, right? That's signal agnostic, if you will, from what we're talking about from a digital and a privacy change. Like who I am as a consumer, my name, my phone number, my address, that's not going to change because of privacy. What I subscribe to or authenticate in an offline world, that's not going to change. I think how it's propagating itself into the digital ecosystem as a seed in my opinion, that will start to influence the cohorts or the targeting. So I think like true offline seeds will become more and more influential that you then can extrapolate out. And like, just to be specific, like I own a type of car, right? That car will come off of a lease at a very certain moment of time. We're going to move away from the fact that like I looked at a Porsche, I'm in market for a Porsche. We're going to understand at a very inherent level that type of seed data to then be able to extrapolate out to answer your question.
You're going to get a Porsche.
I'm going to aspire to get a Porsche.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. But then the last one, I want to throw one more thing too. I think also like we talk about signal. We've focused on digital signal that's coming, out of the device or the operating system of the device, the, IDFA or the Google Ad ID or the browser, cookie-based IDs. I do think that there's this untapped opportunity with the exhaust or the signal that comes out of a creative that will also influence how audiences are constructed and how kind of behavioral targeting is instructed or performance marketing is constructed. And so I think there's this untapped area in creative from a signal standpoint that is independent of the actual creative that you see, if that makes sense.
Do you mean we will have more information on the effectiveness of different creative units to be able to act on that? Or are you talking about a world where everyone's making 4,000 versions of an ad with AI and all that stuff?
A bit of the latter. And if you like generally believe in the transformation of AI and how it impacts, creative has an enormous amount of inputs and outputs that something can learn from. Right? We talk about like we want to target males 18 to 40 because we think they're going to perform. What if we put that aside and said, hey, we're going to learn from the actual creative and continue to optimize and build, subsegments and cohorts off of that behavior, absent if I targeted Mike or Chris versus, hypothetical, my wife, Brianna, or X.
That would be a big cultural change in the way that the television creative has worked for many years, right?
Yeah.
One hero spot most of the time. Do you think the agency or brand community is ready for that, or were there a lot of changes we have to make to get to that place?
I don't think we're ready for it, but I think this may be the precipice of like the forcing function to get us there, right? If you take away all the signal and you take away a lot of the ways that we've historically run targeting, at least in a kind of digital and connected environment, and there's a forcing function that makes change more widespread, I think identity won't go away, right? Some notion of identity will continue to remain from a targeting, and I think more importantly from a measurement and kind of outcome attribution standpoint. But you're going to have to overlay additional types of signals that I'm not sure the market has inherently conformed around, but I think we'll be able to adopt, one part out of necessity and one part out of, true change.
Lastly, does this new reality we're talking about disproportionately favor the walled gardens? And if so, what do we do about that?
I mean, I think it does, right? You have an authenticated world where there's an enormous amount of consumer data being shared. But I also think it creates an opportunity for the advertiser that has a very rich keyhole that it looks through, but it's narrow, to look at ways to expand that and be more comprehensive across the general population. That's something like a walled garden, at least has at enough statistical scale to make it relevant. And so I think this is an opportunity where potentially the open internet and things like connected TV take one step back to take two steps forward, but it's going to be a progression. And I think there will be a moment of time where the walled gardens have a further advantage from where we are today before we catch up again. So it's going to be truly an interesting kind of, we're at the crosshairs of what I think is going to be a unique moment in time.
It's going to be a fascinating several years here.
Yeah.
Chris, thanks so much for your time here.
Yeah, it was really great to hang out. Cheers.